back to the Dan Corder Show. South Africa is a movie. So for our final interview tonight, I am so thrilled about the way that more and more young South Africans are taking advantage of the internet to tell incredible stories and kind of have their own TV shows, their own radio shows, their own podcasts, and get out what they are interested in talented and wonderful and interesting ways. And one of those people is here tonight. She is a fashion designer and a fashion and clothing historian who I have spent so much time enjoying as she has taught me about fashion and art and African fabrics and European cuts and all of these other things that I don't really understand, but fortunately she's here to explain it. She read a book recently that was banned under apartheid, and she said it was about apartheid Tradwives. Now, we all know what a Tradwife is in America, but I'm fascinated with the apartheid Tradwives. So, without further ado, please make some noise for Khensani Mohlatlole! You do look like you do fashion.
Oh, God, I hope so. Very embarrassing otherwise.
Every public appearance is a billboard. Okay,
Yeah.
So Khensani, let's start with this book. So you sometimes read books online.
Try to.
And
yeah.
review them and that. And you found this beat-up old book. Tell us the name of the book. Tell us how you learned more about it. Tell us why it got banned. Let's tell the story.
All right, so the book is The Virgins by Gillian Becker. It was first published, I think, in the UK in 1976. So it was banned here for about 10 years because I guess the government found the contents of the book quite deserving of censorship. But it's basically a very short, sweet story about a young girl, young rich white girl. She's living in Houghton. She goes to Rodin, and it's just sort of her coming of age story. So very it doesn't really seem like at the face of it that there's very much to be concerned about.
It's very real though. Rodin is a real school. It's situated in real life. Yeah.
Yeah, even the parts of Houghton she lives in, there's also parts where she's visiting the museums when they used to still be in a really good state, and you could take the bus everywhere and smoking cigarettes indoors. Real golden era. But what's really interesting is in the book, so her mother is a housewife, so they're a very wealthy family. They live on this huge estate. They've got a tennis court, they've got swimming pools, they have at least 4 domestic staff, and they are at the time considered middle class, and they're doing all of this on the single income of her dad, who's a doctor.
Wow.
And then her mom is just everything you would imagine when you hear really rich housewife. She wakes up at 7 a.m. She has a procession of people coming in to do her hair, her makeup, her nails every single day. She only comes downstairs at 11, where she just has a huge breakfast, huge lunch, bosses people around, and she's okay, big day, time to go to bed. And that's it. And there's a lot of very interesting biting commentary about how a lot of especially these kinds of people, I think they consider themselves quite liberal and very open-minded, but they're also incredibly dehumanizing to their staff. But when they're in public or with other people, they're oh my God, what a problem we live in, and we wish South Africa was so much more equal and better. So there's a lot of calling out of hypocrisy there.
I see. So why did it get banned?
I guess because of that.
Yeah, let's talk about that more.
Because for a book called The Virgins, there wasn't any sex.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So, so they were mainly the apartheid government didn't like the fact that this was a depiction of their voters, people who probably vote for them, or at least are wealthy and powerful and okay in old apartheid white South African life, who, their own dehumanization and hypocrisy was on display.
Yeah, and also I think they make a big show when they're in their sort of social circles of outwardly criticizing the government as well, and talking about we have a color problem, and it's so sad what Europeans have done to the poor natives, wow. We wish they could live in peace somewhere, just somewhere else.
Right, absolutely. But tell me more about this idea of an apartheid Tradwife. What was so trad or traditional about the depiction of this mother in particular?
Yeah, I mean, we start with the way she sort of spends her day. So obviously she's a very well-off woman. So she was raised incredibly well. You get to go to the best schools, you get the finest education, you get etiquette training and stuff. But all of that is just so that you can go be some man's wife and stay at home all day and throw parties and run a household, which mostly just means that you have a bunch of other people doing everything for you. And when I would be reading about the way she's spending her day, it's a lot of doing nothing, honestly. Every meal is brought to her. There's little buttons in secret parts of the house where she can tap on it, and then staff will just magically appear, There's a part in the book where I think they had an issue with their grocer, like they over-ordered asparagus or something. She's freaking out. She's yelling at all the staff because she thinks they're trying to steal from her.
Oh, I see.
And then she complains to her husband about it. And he's like, well, then would you like to run the household yourself? And she was just like, you don't know how to do that.
And then talk to me about the fashion, because like when we think about Tradwives now, and particularly online discourse, mainly on TikTok, it's a look. So it's like you wear this, you do your hair like this, you do your makeup like this, you present, as you said, etiquette training in a certain way. What was the kind of like almost binding look and feel of an apartheid Tradwife that they had to fulfill?
So what I've seen also, like, because this was in the 70s, but even before that, I mean, a lot of the trends you saw in Europe, you'd still see here, but they were, like, I think they were still quite very conservative. So especially for, I think, wealthy white women, it was really important to look very, like, feminine and modest. So a lot of the, like, you know, the classic stuff you think of, like, they're doing their hair, they're getting things done. Every morning she comes downstairs with a full face of makeup on.
Wow.
Even though she's at home the whole day. Like,
seeing no one.
Yeah, literally.
Sure.
Getting dressed, also having like a formal dinner so people will change when it's dinner time.
Wow.
Putting on something, I guess, a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
Having a dressmaker who comes like basically 2-3 times a month to fit on a whole bunch of things, because, you know, there's parties to go to and dinners and etc. So very much exactly what you imagine, just like the ideal of like what a woman should really look like.
It's just crazy that this family was middle class. You know, this description, it kind of reminds me of how apartheid was completely created so that black people would work for nothing, so that white middle-class people could afford this kind of service while being just middle class.
Yeah.
It's really, really crazy. So here's where we can get controversial, Khensani, because this is my show and I like that.
Cool.
Okay, so do you see remnants of that apartheid Tradwife fantasy in modern South African life amongst some women in some communities, and not just white communities? Like, is it a fantasy that some South African women are still bound by or buy into?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, like, I think it was especially during lockdown, there was a trend of stay-at-home girlfriends.
Yes.
Which is even wilder to me because you're not even married. But very much glamorizing this life of like, because of my partner, I am at home all day, or I go to Pilates and then I open a bunch of gifts and then I make a really big fruit bowl and then we go somewhere really cool for dinner. And then that was a really busy day for me. And I've done so much. And this is like this fantasy of just getting to live a life of not really doing anything all the time. And I think especially now we have such a very scary job market and the world is very precarious, and I think people like the idea of the security of like
Money.
Being completely taken care of.
Totally.
And it sucks to work, like no one likes it. I get it.
I enjoy this job, but the other ones less so.
Yeah,
This
like,
is a nice job.
Not great.
But what I also think about with the Tradwife thing is that what you're also putting on as this Tradwife is the fantasy for the husband. So the husband comes home and you are gorgeous. You're like out of a Barbie doll box, you know, and the food is perfect. And you're living a top billing episode, basically.
Literally.
And I wonder with the stay-at-home girlfriends if that was also a thing, or is also a thing, is that you stay at home all day so you can be perfect for your man whenever he needs you or has time for you, can call on you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm guessing that's why they go to Pilates so much as well. Yeah. And I imagine also for a man, it's like a really good status symbol because it's not just like, because you know when you have money, no one can actually see what's in your bank account. But if you have a really beautiful woman next to you and she's got diamonds on and she's dressed really well, and then you guys have this beautiful home and, you know, the food just magically appears and then the dishes disappear, like that's like the best show that you've made it. Like you are the guy.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so Khensani, that's so fascinating. I feel so much more in tune with seeing things now. But I also want to know how you see, you mentioned it earlier, the uncertainty right now in the world. People are unsure about how the world is going. Things are getting more expensive, cost of living. We nearly had a VAT increase. People are more worried about their money. Job market is so awful. I read about the 2009 recession that affected fashion choices. It affected trends. Sometimes people would get way more party animal because they just want to forget how rough it is right now and just go and be brat summer, basically. But other people dress more demure because it becomes almost socially a faux pas to express your wealth and your blessings when the society is struggling. So what are you seeing as a fashion observer in South African life right now with fashion trends reflecting maybe the moment that we're in as a country?
Oh, it's a bit tougher now because I think like society is a lot more stratified with the internet now. They aren't as, like trends don't come down the same way they used to.
They don't go everywhere.
Yeah, and also there's so many things now because you don't just look to magazines and runways for things now. It's also to the influencers and things. But I would say there's like we used to call it like the rich aunt aesthetic. And I think with a lot of young women now, like this thing of like going to the club in business casual, or you know, just being very like, yeah, sort of getting into these sort of like very feminine housewife cosplays. I think because for a lot of people, it's not so much that they actually miss these more traditional times, but I think they like the security of that time. The idea of like, you know, people could take care of their whole household on a single salary, and things were much cheaper, and you could live life a certain way. So I think a lot of people try to dress in that way to kind of get that feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think a lot of people are getting into a lot more traditional things now, a lot more feminine things. But I think also on the inverse, there are also a lot of people who are sort of like...
it's the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly. There's like a real apocalyptic vibe to the fashion. You know, everything's ripped and shredded, or like really weird and like dramatic as well. So sort of, yeah, you get very many different reactions, but I guess also just to the same like issue.
I guess what's interesting with what you said earlier, and this is something that has been spoken about around the world, is that Gen Z are trying to dress older. So there's this energy of, you know, business casual in the club, like you know, gorgeous makeup at 14 years old, like you're trying to look womanly or manly, like an adult, like more of an authority, but goes back to what you were saying about trying to exude money and status, even as you're going to the club, you know, in first year.
Yeah, and I think especially for Gen Z who like missed out on so much of like being young because of COVID and lockdown, and you can see that now also. I think this is like one of the first generations that drink the least.
Yeah.
People don't party as much, you know. They're at home watching the Nara Smith TikToks of her like cooking and homesteading, and I think, yeah, they've never had that sort of like time to be young and reckless. And also it's hard to do that also when there's phones everywhere. So it's like, it's not as fun to dance and be crazy because like you're constantly being watched.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've ever had like role models that were also other young people. Like it's all a bunch of celebrities with an entire team of hair, makeup, etc. So that's the only thing you kind of know to emulate as well.
Must be so interesting for you to walk through the world. Like, kind of like, you know, when an architect walks through the world, they see so many stories in each building. Khensani is seeing economic trends, influences in people's clothes. Okay, Khensani, thank you so much for being on. My final question, which I think is going to resonate with a lot of people, is you managed to convert your genuine passion, interest, and talent in fashion and fashion history into a very significant following. People adore your stuff. You've got a podcast. People go to you for clothing recommends. They see the way that you play with fabrics online. It's not kind of, and I'm going to get in trouble for this, vacuous lifestyle influencer work. It's like knowledge and craft influencer work and content creation. And I think there are a lot of people who've got passions who want to get an audience for that so that they can make those passions their lives. So how did you do it?
Being unemployed was a really big part of it. I had a lot of time on my hands, yeah.
Okay.
Just like after lockdown, I had a lot of time on my hands, nothing to do. And most of it was, I was actually just mostly terrorizing my friends with my interests, and other people happened to be into it. I think a lot of people love to learn more about things, and I think people also enjoy other people's enthusiasm for things.
Yes.
So I think if you just go out and don't be afraid to be cringe and...
do it in your room.
Yeah.
Just get on with it.
No one cares. Like, just be excited about it, make something worthwhile, and like, you know.
You have a phone. Go be a star. Okay. Khensani Mohlatlole is a star. Make some noise. What a phenomenal interview. Thank you so much for that. Absolutely.